Well, hello again. It's a dull, dreary, miserable, rainy day outside, so I'm not going to go out and finish the Thunderbird video that I started. I'll go ahead and work on this, and then when the Thunderbird video gets uploaded, then I'll take care of this. But meanwhile, let's get on this. I've always got something to work on. I like that, doing two videos, alternating between the two. It's kind of cool. A lot of good comments as usual. I really appreciate it. I really, really do. And I appreciate the new guys that have popped in. I appreciate the old timers that, have been here years ago and now they're back. And that's kind of cool. I like that a lot. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, today we're going to do a little bit of safety kind of stuff. Not from a electrical safety standpoint, but to keep things from getting broken. So the first thing I got to do is I'm going to be flopping this chassis up this way, that way, and everywhere, and I don't plan to haul this stupid thing around with me. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it off on the inside and leave a couple of stubs. I put the cord on. I'll just cut it off and leave a couple of stubs so I know exactly where it goes without any questions at a later date. So let's do that. Well, one goes here to the power transformer, and the other one goes here to the on-off switch and volume control. So we're going to make ourselves just nice and easy. Just cut that baby. And there's no doubt in my mind where it's going to go when I put the new one in. I'll probably take this one, just shorten it up. It's a really long one, and I have no idea where it came from. It was just out in my bench in the garage. Let's pull it through the hole and get it out of the way. The next thing I will take off, I've got to get this thing off of here so I can ultimately get the variable capacitor off, and I'll show you why. It's all loose. The reason it's loose is those rubber grommets down there have hardened up over the years right here, and they've shrunk up, and I've got new grommets and everything to put in there. I'll have to unsolder it. Plus, I'm going to run it through my ultrasonic cleaner once I get it off, and that'll give me a whole lot more room and everything here to work to de-rust and clean, do all the necessary stuff that we have to do. So that means that this dial needle is going to have to come off, but you got to be real careful with these. Real careful. From here on out, the blades on the variable capacitors stay closed. Get them closed. Just close them up and keep them there. And you may have to hold them with your thumb to keep them there in order to get your center screw out for your dial needle. And once we get that thing out of there, it's going to go in a plastic bag. Now this dial thing is attached down here to all of this, and then it's screwed to the front of the, let me get this out of the way so we can see what we're doing. By the way, that little clip provides the ground for the light. We have to get these two screws out here with this one and this one, and this whole mechanism will come off. I've got to get this light diffuser off so I can make a new one. So, by the way, one more thing. I keep saying by the way all the time because there's always a lot of by the ways in this business. Try to work on a towel. If you drop a little screw or something, it's only going to go down and hit the towel and stop. If you don't, it hits the floor monster gets it, you'll never see it again, okay? I learned that the hard way. That's why I always work on a towel, always. Usually it's a larger towel, but I don't have quite that much room here. So let's see if I can get this off. Normally they're very difficult to get off without stripping the screw. You got to have the right size screwdriver, and you really got to push in hard to make sure it doesn't strip out of the hole. If it strips out of the hole, you're screwed. Again, you got to take your time. I'll be screwing this to the left, and that means that the variable capacitor will try to come out. I'll be holding it with one hand with my thumb while I'm using the right hand to get this screw out. And don't let it slip. Keep the pressure on until she pops loose. Some of these things are on there with, I swear, they put them on with torque wrenches. Alright, this one came off. It was difficult, trust me. It was difficult. We got a little collar, I think, has to come out too, yeah. Okay. Go ahead and film it. Take a picture of it so you know how it goes back in. Collar, washer, another, and then the needle, and then the screw. Alright. This goes in the sandwich bag. Alright, the next thing we got to do is to try to get the light diffuser off, and then I think I'm going to have to remove this. I hate to do it, but if I do, I'll take, now this, I'll just take 2 of these out and try to slip it off the other ones. Whether or not take them out, but sort of just bend them down very carefully. You know, I hate this. This is where real patience comes in. But I've got to get that shaft screw. Let me see, where is it, if I can show it to you. Yeah, see that screw down there? I've got to get that thing loose, and that'll be just as tight as can be also. Again, but I won't be able to hold the blades in. They've got to be in this position so I can get to that screw. I don't think. Maybe I can get it from the bottom. Let me look. No, I can still do it. I can still get it from over here like this. And you can bet this baby's going to be on there just as tight as if it were torqued also. I need both hands for it. Well, fortunately, it stuck out far enough where I was able to get a real good bite on it with the screwdriver. If it had been countersunk, I've had to file my screwdrivers down to fit it down in the slot and down in the hole where it was countersunk down in there. Not this time. Well, I got lucky with that, but it was tight, real tight. And then in order to get it off the shaft, you know, sometimes you just got to think this stuff out. I don't know the answers to all the stuff. You got to think it out. And to get it off the shaft right here, I had to pull this forward a little bit to give me the clearance I needed so it would come off the shaft. And it just popped right off, thankfully. Now, of course, you can see we're still going to have to struggle with these 2 screws here. I can't get there's no way I can get that off of there, I don't think. So, what do we do? I don't want to do anything with this, I really don't, but I've got no choice. I'm going to have to bend 1 or 2 of the tabs at a minimum. And then hopefully, maybe 3, I don't know. Oh well, it's not something I haven't done before. You know, old hat, we can do this. We have confidence we can do anything. I think the best way to get these things bent out far enough to where the dial will come off of them is to use a tool like this. I'm not cutting it. I just want to get a hold of it. They're thin. They got a real thin blade where I can get behind it. Yeah. Let's see if it works. Not a lot of pressure. Not a lot of pressure. We're not going to gorilla this. We're just going to get it enough to where we can bend it out a little bit. Get it toward the back and the front and the tip of it. Now bring it on around slowly. Remember, this is very old metal. Suffering from metal fatigue, a lot of it. Getting it slow but sure. If you wind up breaking them off, guess what? It's not the end of the world. You just glue it back on, okay? You put your glue behind your dial scale and glue it back on. It's not going to go anywhere. But you got to get it fairly. Where I'm at it. Yeah, the camera. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to keep an eye on this so I don't bend it and break it off. You got to get it out as straight as you can, but you got to go slow, 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 slow. There's no race to this. Slow and easy. It's coming. Slow and easy. Let me get another tool. Kind of get a hold of it. Nice and flat on there. Get it over here. Nice and flat. Don't do it with just the tip. Get it nice and flat. Up and pressed up against the dial scale. Then just kind of roll it a little bit. Okay. And you can see it's already off. That's all you got to do. I'm going to do it to this one, then I'm just going to pry these 2 up. These 2. I keep losing in the camera. I'm sorry. Let me back up here a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and bend this one out, and then straight like this one as I can. But not, you know, I don't have to be perfectly straight. Just enough to where it'll come off that tab. Then I'm just going to bend these out enough to where I can just push down the whole scale and hopefully press it off. I'll probably have to do it one at a time. So let me get that done. Move this one out same way I did this one. Next. Alright, we got 2 of them off and our tabs are not broken. Now to pull these out a little bit and slip it off, I hope. To do the bottom 2, I have to put the chassis in this position here. That's why I needed to get that cord off. I didn't want to keep wrestling that stupid thing around every time I had to move it. Slow and easy does it. Slow and easy. Oops, I may have to wind up. I'm going to have to use two hands on it. You got to be careful now. Alright, now for the big moment. There it is. It was put on there, what? This is 2024. This is a 1936 radio. So what is that? That's 88 years ago? 88 years ago that thing was put on there. Just so I could take it off in Conway, Arkansas for you folks. In the bag it's going to go. And now we get this off with the screwdriver. Make sure again, these screws they're soft. I don't know if they were like that from the factory. They should have been not, but they'll strip out on you real quick. Make sure you got a screwdriver that fits the slots on all the screws on these old radios. Make sure they fit exactly, because if you don't, you will pay the price. You know, experience talking here. There we go. These external star washers, external meaning the points are on the outside, the internal would have the points on the inside of the circle. They'll also go in this bag with all this other stuff. That's about it. That's going to go in that bag. I'll seal it in a minute, but this here will be going in the ultrasonic cleaner. This, when we get it off, will be going through into the ultrasonic cleaner. I'll clean it best I can before putting it in there. The ultrasonic cleaner can't take care of everything, but here you can see what happened to those rubber grommets. This one here is already busted into pieces. Half of it's missing. See it? There's another one in the rear, and we'll have to take the nut off the legs. There's some nuts on those legs underneath the chassis. I'll have to take those 3 off, and then we're going to have to unsolder a wire here that comes up from underneath the chassis. If I can get a better shot of this for you. Yeah, there's a wire that solders here, and there's another one that solders there. The 3 nuts we'll have to take off are this one here, this one right here, and this one down here. It's underneath that. There it is right there. See it? Okay. Once we get those off, we'll be able to unsolder the 2 wires, and the entire tuner should come off. And I'm going to leave that here for today. The next video we'll go ahead and remove the tuner, because there's 2 things I wanted to show you, and I don't want the video to be overly long if I can help it. Some of these old schematics, now this is important to even some of you old timers that don't know. I've covered this once before. Here you'll see that we've got 100 megohm, what was that, 35 megohm, 20 megohm. Back in the old schematics in the 30s, a lot of your radio companies that made these things, a lot of these schematic companies rather, that drew these things up, they put the letter M, and M, nowadays means meg or megohm, okay? And that's not the way it was back then. Back then the M stood for 1,000. It's a Greek symbol, the Greek letter for 1,000, okay? So if it was a meg, so this would be 50K, 100K, 35K, 20K, and this would be just a 700 ohm and a 250 ohm. And if it were a meg, it would come down. You would see they would actually spell it out. Okay. Good to know stuff. Took me a while to figure that one out. I had to get a hold of somebody in the antique radio forum and say, "Would you please tell me why they spelled meg here but not all the rest?" Then they explained it to me the exact same way I just explained it to you. Last thing I want to show you. You'll remember in the last video I answered all the comments, by, verbally instead of doing all the writing involved. And I mentioned that one of the guys that was a Cool Blue Lights I think it was the second channel I ever subscribed to. The first one was All American 5 Radio. The second one was Cool Blue Lights. Cool Blue Lights. I said he was 16 or 17 years old when he got his radio operational, and he had worked on it for a year with the help of All American 5 Radio, Rick McWhorter. And he put up a video, and he was he was just so happy and so pleased with himself for what he accomplished. And I understood that completely. I identified 100% because the radio I had been working on was the same one I'm working on right now, a model 62198 Airline, and I had all kinds of problems with it. And then one day, it finally made some noise and it's tuned in a station, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. His name is Dan, and he said, you know, further down in the comments, he answered all the comments. He said, they said, boy, it was just a big thrill and everything. He said, yeah, it was like giving birth or something. Anyway, I'm going to show you a couple of short segments to give you an idea how proud he was that day. And he was not 16 to 17 like I thought. He sent me a comment, or he answered a comment, I guess, or added to a comment. I can't remember what it was. He said he was 27. Well, you could have fooled me. He's 41 years old now. Anyway, since then, he has become very good at repairing radios and everything. So let me go ahead and record the first part.
Remember this radio, ladies and gentlemen?
Here's the second part, the part that really got to me that day. He had turned it on, jumped around a little bit.
Please call now. Call 1-800-900-0771. That's 1-800-900-0771.
That is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my whole life.
That was one proud young feller, I'll tell you. Until next time, this is John.